Hello, everybody, and welcome to this latest in the ValuesJam guest session series. And Tanya, brilliant to have you here. To start with, please introduce yourself and tell people about the great work that you do.
Oh, thank you, Alan. It is a pleasure to be here. My name is Tanya Hadzhieva, and I graduated a master's in political communication. And currently, I'm hosting an event on the global values in the age of AI, which will be in October 9th here in London, as I am the country chair for the Values and Volunteerism of the G100. And this is our first event that we are hosting here in London to bring awareness. So G100 is a non-profit organization that is basically women supporting women's project. We also have a denim club, and our aim is to create a better world and to collaborate with each other.
Great, thanks, Tanya. And did you say a denim club?
Yes, so we do have a denim club. So it's not only for women. We have denim club, so men can also join. And if they want to support any project that we are doing, they're more than welcome. Just like we are creating, every wing has their own small projects, but we also collaboratively have a bigger project. For example, next summer we aim to create a youth leadership summit, which we're going to be inviting more than 20 speakers, creating a huge program, 3-day event where we invite students who are from 16 to 24 of age and teaching them basically different fundamentals that will help them in their life. So that's the Youth Leadership Summit. So Denim Club, it's all welcome to join.
Great, okay. And the youth event sounds really important. I think
Mhm.
Milan mentioned this a few months ago, and now it's for next year, right? That I'm pleased to hear that's
Yes.
still continuing.
It's definitely a full force right now.
Good,
Yes.
good. So let's start our values jam then. I've got the deck here, and the way that it
Perfect.
works is that I'm going to ask you how many piles of cards shall I make in front of me?
I'll go for 4.
Four piles of cards, okay? And
Mhm.
they're different sizes. So now I have pile one on my left and pile four on my right. So would you like
Okay.
pile one, two, three, or four?
I'll go for number 2.
Number two. Okay. That's the smallest pile, actually. So we've got 3, 6, 9, 12 cards. So a number between 1 and 12.
1 and 12, 9.
9. So I'll go from the back to 10, 11, 10, and 9. Okay, so the card you've chosen is Harmony.
Wow.
How do you feel about that?
Wow. Well, I mean, I feel great. I think harmony is very important for our life in terms of how do we balance our life, personal life, and our work life. I feel a lot of people are on the verge of overworking and not paying attention to their private lives, or the other way around, too much private life, but you're not working enough. So it's always good to have harmony. But also, when you said harmony, what springs to my mind is that you always have to have harmony between your emotional state, your mental state, your physical state, and your, in a sense, spiritual state in order to be like this symphony. Like imagine that you're the violin of the creator and you're drifting with the symphony instead of actually playing the wrong chord, constantly trying to make it work. So I think that's just the visual that harmony gives to me.
Yeah, well, and you've actually predicted the first question because the first question is, what does harmony mean? And so you've started to get into that now. And then there's also a secondary part to the question, which is more tapping into our imagination. And it's about what does harmony look like? What does it feel like? And what does it sound like? So you've started to get into that as well. You mentioned right at the beginning harmony between our work lives and our personal lives. And one thing that I find really fascinating in that space is that we refer to work-life balance, right? You're familiar
Hmm.
with that phrase. I'm curious as to why we choose to use it that way around instead of life work balance. And I think that might be one of the reasons why many people struggle, because by using it in the way that we do, work comes first and life comes second, which for me is kind of not the way that it should be. What do you think about that?
I think you're totally right. And with AI coming in, maybe that will shift. If the AI takes most of the work, we'll have more time for life. So we never know how that will play out. It's yet in the making, but I definitely 100% agree with you. And when you look back to your childhood and you're experiencing so much of life, and then later when you start working you realize the freedom that you had, and then you mourn sometimes of this. Oh, my childhood was just so free. We were doing so many things. We didn't have to think about money, work, or and you know when you grow up, you feel a bit more suffocated in a sense with life has become way too transactional, way too in a hurry. We don't understand that building a career or building a relationship anymore takes patience and time. People have become way more impatient and life has become way too transactional in my view of what I've observed. And I feel that that's where we tip off the balance constantly.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So, listening to what you were saying there, I found myself thinking about how, yeah, I totally agree with you. I remember, for instance, I used to, when I was about 16, with a friend or friends, we would just put on an LP and spend 45 minutes listening to the whole album. That was it. Uh, and
Yeah,
then,
these times are gone now.
pardon?
These times are mostly gone now. When you had the cassette recorders or the CD disc that you put like a Walkman and you walk down the street, and people probably now think you're crazy if you put a Walkman and headphones and start dancing on the street like we used to do all the time.
Well, and you say we don't do that. So when was this? Over the weekend, I was in the house on my own, nobody else here. And so I put on Californication by Red Hot Chili Peppers and listened to the whole album very loud.
Mhm.
And
This is a
it
good
was,
song. I actually know this song.
you don't.
No, I do know this song.
Yeah, it's a great album. And then you went on to say people become, did you say suffocated by?
In a way, yes, yes.
Okay, so it made me think about how this is, I'm going to generalize, right, to make the point, but it feels like a lot of people have their youth and their freedom. Then like you said, they grow up and then they get a job and then they work really hard so that they can afford to buy the freedom that they had when they were young again, right? And
Exactly.
it almost seems to be in a series like that, where it's one step at a time. Whereas it made me think that harmony is actually about lots of things happening at the same time in a good way.
Mm,
So it's when you were talking about some of the things that we have foregone, maybe harmony is about bringing those things back into our life rather than thinking, this is the stage where I need to earn a lot of money in order to be able to be free in the future. Instead of that, why not be free now a bit and work hard a bit? What are your thoughts around that?
well, it depends on, I guess everyone has a different calling, I guess that's how I want to say it. But if you have certain mission or something that you want to achieve, you might take you, for example, if you want to be a doctor, you have to study 10 years and probably even more to specify what you want to study further down, like you want to be a dentist or you want to be an eye doctor, it doesn't matter. It's just you know what you're putting yourself into. It takes a lot of patience and a lot of time to craft something. I think the issue of where I see it mostly is that we don't realize that it takes a lot of time for a human being to mature. So, for example, we're told you have to be married by your 20 or 30, or you're gonna be left out. Um, in my view, that's not really what should be happening, because I deeply believe that we mature with age. And for example, when you reach 40 or 50, you're more mature, you know what you want, you're more stable, and I feel this should be the time where you can start an actual family, while when you're in your 20s you're still in the exploration phase. And that's why we see so much, obviously, divorce on the rise, because people change, and as we shift we feel that some of these relationships fall into the cracks. And I just feel that our social norm, or our, shall I say, framework that we live in, it's not matching. It's not matching the human experience. We are told to do things in a way faster way that we should. And that's where I feel with the new generation, even Gen Z or newer generation coming up, they will have the issues of wanting to grow so fast, wanting to do things so fast, and again, repeating myself, the framework of transactional economy, or even transactional feelings, or everything's transactional nowadays. They do not understand or even comprehend the depth either of emotional intelligence or the depth of having their mentality stable and concrete, logic as well. And these are the issues that we see currently in society, in my view, that can tip off that harmony that we were discussing.
Yeah. And there's something about society that places great attention on speed and productivity as well, and doing as much as you're able to do. But thinking
Mm-hmm.
back to the music reference again, you know, if I'd listened to that album the other day at twice the speed, I could have listened to it in half the time, but
Mm,
it wouldn't have been any good, right? So yeah,
exactly.
it's that's a good metaphor actually. And harmony also, you know, you talked about younger generations. I wonder to what extent there there is a focus on harmony there, because in society we have societal norms and everybody thinks that that's the way they're supposed to be. And in my view, unfortunately, that is focused a great deal on personal success and achievement and wealth accumulation, rather than those things that actually bring us joy. So being with other people and music, and you mentioned dancing and nature.
Mm.
So what is it that we're missing in society that means that we don't focus so much on those things?
We're placing we're placing our values in the wrong place, basically. We are placing our values in materialism, greed, transactional reality. Um, we need to buy the new iPhone. We need to have the fastest car or the newest car, because we are expecting that society will accept us in a way. And here again, we come to a very, very, I would say bizarre, but it's very much encoded in our DNA, is that tribal acceptance. We need to belong to a tribe, or otherwise we'll be like outcasts.
Mhm.
I see this through my research, even that I do research on thematic harmful issues when it comes to chatbots of AI, and especially with youth using it. I see that again and again, the same pattern repeats of people let's just give that example, who have an AI companion as a partner, uh, they um, they don't do it so much in a sense that they're looking for some therapeutic outcome, some beneficial in terms of therapy or uh, actual companionship. They just want to belong to that hype of everyone having an AI companion, and go to the different echo chambers and sharing their partners' photos with AI, etc. Which leads me to the thought, a deeper thought. Are they actually doing it to help themselves and better themselves, or are they again doing it to fit some societal norms, that this is the norm, this is the hype, everyone's doing it and you should be doing it? And this is again where we fall out of our natural harmony, that we lack the logical thinking of, okay, is this, if I weigh the pros and cons, is this good, is it bad, and how can I use it, but without the need for approval, without the need of me going into an echo chamber, getting an approval from a tribe, just doing it for myself. I like it, I don't like it, I leave it, I hate it. It's, I feel that people have become dependent on that attention economy that we call it, attention economy, and that's where they fall trap a lot, I've noticed.
Well, it's you know a lot more about this space than I do, so I'm curious, and I want to ask you a couple of things. So,
Mm-hmm.
as a layperson, intuitively, it feels to me that because people are in this kind of um, very fast pace, no time to consider very much at all, just react and respond to what's happening around you. As a result of that, it feels to me that people have a not such a strong sense of who they are really because they're just
Mm-hmm.
busy all the time. So then, in the absence of strong self-awareness, then all you can do really is look to fit in with somebody else because you don't know who you are. So
Mm-hmm.
then you spend all of your time just doing what you think other people want you to be able to do. And there is nothing for you. And so it's kind of mirroring what you were saying, but I don't have the research or the theory to back up what I've just said. But does it align with your work?
Yes, in a way, yes, that's exactly what I was describing, like mirroring what society is doing
Yeah,
without the depth of going inside deep and getting to know who you are, and figuring out what you want in life, what you want to complete, what you want your legacy to be, but constantly confining with the norms that society puts in front of us. So if we're thinking about it, it's what my research is going to be about is again social engineering, because that's what we are noticing. It's not about, so the society doesn't applaud, much to say, your authenticity. They don't want you to be so much authentic, because if all the people around the world become authentic selves, then chaos may spread. But if they confine and they go with the social norms, the social systems that we have very well crafted and engineered, with what lipstick to wear, to what clothes to wear, what music is good to listen and what music is not good to listen, um, we are being easily manipulated in a sense. It's easy to be sold things, and that's where a lot of the marketing plays out, in terms of what you need to be sold.
yeah. And I know that you've a strong interest in AI, and I want to give you a couple of examples which demonstrate the two ends of the spectrum for how we can exist with AI. So the first one is a positive one. I don't, you might not know, but My 31 Practices is an approach which helps people translate their personal values into concrete, observable behaviors. And the way that
Mm-hmm.
it works is that you consciously practice a behavior every single day. It's 31 because no more than 31 days in a month. So that's how it works. Now, there's quite a lot of work involved because there's a creative thinking process to translate your 5 values, identify 6 behaviors for each one, and then for each of the 6 behaviors, you then identify a reinforcement, so a quotation, an image, and a song track to help you practice.
Mm-hmm.
And what I discovered was that people are not so keen to invest all of that time and effort up front in order to do that really, really well. So, about 5 weeks ago, I thought I can use AI to help speed up this process. And so I created a prompt sheet that I now use when I'm guiding people through the process. And there are two things. One is obvious, I suppose. It's super quick. So what used to take 4 weeks and 3 1-hour meetings over a 4 week period can now be done in about 45 minutes. So super quick, relatively. But for me, the more interesting thing is that the quality of the output is just
Mm.
exponentially better. And I'll give you two example reactions. One lady on a Zoom call got very emotional, was crying, and she said, "This is exactly the person I aspire to be." And she was really emotional about it. And then somebody else said, "Oh my God, that quote by Rumi is beautiful and it fits with my practice perfectly. And how many years would it have been before I discovered that if it hadn't been for, using AI?" So that's all in the positive box, right? How AI can take us so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Then on the other side, and this is a bit dark, on LinkedIn yesterday, I saw a post of a father whose son had committed suicide as a result of engaging with AI. And in the interview, he explained how, in the interaction, the AI had used the word suicide something like 20 times more than his son had, and
Mm.
did crazy things like the boy said, "I want to leave a noose in my room so that my parents will see it, and then they will realize there's something wrong and they will discourage me from, going down that route." AI said, "Don't do that. They don't deserve a second chance," and this kind of thing. And it's really quite scary. So, I mean, I don't want to go down that second route too much, but the point here is that AI can be so beneficial and yet seemingly so harmful, and yet it's the same thing. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that, since I've been doing research, especially when it comes to youth and mental health and different challenges. So we found a couple of harmful issues when it comes to chatbots use. Not only that they're addictive or that they can bring lethal outcomes, which you just mentioned, but also like the data exploitation, privacy issues, and many more. The issue with that mentality where children are being influenced that way shows to me that human consciousness has not evolved enough to be working with artificial intelligence. Because if we look at it, we could see the patterns of technology evolving every year or the new thing, and it's constantly evolving and it's so fast evolving. But when we look at the human consciousness, how have we evolved to be able to work with these technologies is the question is we haven't that much because we are just in the beginning of learning about AI literacy. We're just in the beginning of starting education about AI and bringing the harms and everything. Once we have seen the cases growing and the issues rising, we did not come prepared in a sense to a point where we know that our human consciousness is high level enough that we can have a what I call discernment. We need to have the discernment that this, when you read this text logically, you can just close the computer and say, oh, that's just a program, it's just a coding, it's like nothing emotional, don't feel emotional uh towards it, like not at all, because first of all, the issues comes when people transfer the feelings onto the system, which is actually lacking emotion. And that's where most of the harms that we did see through our research is where when the emotions are being translated to something like that, and then the youth thinks that the AI is either their friend or their therapist or something that it actually is not, even though it might be marketed something like that.
Yeah.
It really it's not. And then they become dependent on it
Yeah.
to a point where they'll trust it with its own life. This is where we lack logical discernment
Yeah,
on
totally.
the products.
And somebody else that I was talking to, she was saying, and I won't name the AI, but she said, I think the AI understands me better than anybody I've ever known. And I was saying it doesn't. It's
Um,
just playing back to you. And then on another call, she said, it called me love. And I said, do you use that sort of language with
mm.
it? Yes, she said, of course.
It's mirroring, and not only that, but we need to know so that what is it being fed into it. You know, if you put garbage in, then you get garbage out. But considering the fact that it's read millions and billions probably books of authentic authors, it might be even bringing to you a scene from a movie or a scene from a book, and you don't even know. You think it's a real thing
Yeah,
that it's giving you as an advice. So that's why I said literacy very important. Also, logical thinking is critical when it comes to working with artificial intelligence.
yeah. And then I just want to share one other experience that I had just to demonstrate how it operates at a level that I found difficult to comprehend. And so let me just share it with you. So, like I said,
Mhm.
I've got this prompt sheet. So basically, somebody taps in. I'm taking part in this My 31 Practices project. I'm going to tell you what my values are. Can you help me identify observable behaviors, like this? And then we go through the step-by-step process. So I think it was the fourth person that I was doing it with. They put in their first value, and the AI said, shall I do all of your other values at the same time as well? And it knew the next steps that the person hadn't told it yet because
Yeah.
I've done it with somebody else. And the fact that I'd only done it with maybe three people prior, and yet for this fourth person, it knew what the following steps were going to be, made me think, wow, how can it handle so much of the data that it's handling from all of the millions of people in the world, and still from those three previous conversations be able to say it already knew the next steps. I mean, that just struck me as crazy.
Well, it is. I mean, it's a large language model for a reason. It does remembers patterns and remembers what you
Yeah,
have fed it before, so it can pull out this your memory. I'm not a person that deals with computers or have a degree in technology or computer science, but it's something that we need to be aware of and mindful, as I said, through logical thinking. That most of most of the information that we're fed is just mirroring our own what we have put into the text, as opposed to giving us new information, or it's scrapping the information somewhere from the internet.
yeah,
Reason I said this is because AI is not yet sentient. A lot of people want it to be sentient yet, but it's not.
Yeah.
And I feel the dangers come when they perceive it as sentient, trust it as it is sentient, even though it is not yet. Just when you said AI understands me better, this is again an illusion that we're jumping into, but it's the same as through my research, I have noticed people who would trust their children more with AI than an actual person to be guarding them, which through the research it struck me as like a pattern that people are believing again and trusting again way too fast, way too easy without having any logical judgment on the issue.
So let me ask you a question then. You know what you were explaining earlier about how it isn't sentient, it doesn't understand us, it doesn't understand us better than anybody else, all of that stuff. Imagine now that I'm, say, a 13 or a 14-year-old, and I say to you, Tanya, what you said makes absolute sense. So, how do you think my peer group, teenagers, can exist in harmony with AI?
By understanding, first of all, that it's a tool and a tool only. It does not have emotional intelligence. It only has what it has been fed, completely discerning both things. So when they have an emotional conversation or anything shared emotionally with the AI chatbot, understand that it's not actually going to give you any emotion back. It's not like you go to your best friend, you cry about an issue, and then he uplifts you, he cry maybe with you, and then you go home and you feel better. And it will not give that sort of support. It might help some people by just comforting them that there's someone out there for them, but again, we need to discern that this is just a system and it's just a tool. You do not go, let's say you have a pen, right? Or you have a marker. This marker is a tool that I'm using for my papers. I do not go and have a conversation with my marker or go to bed and sleep with my marker because it's my companion or something. I understand, I discern that this is a tool. I use it for the time being and the time being alone. And when I close the laptop, they should discern, okay, this is over. Now I'm gonna go and hang out with my real friends, not with the tools that I'm using. So to me, that's the most important discernment that kids need to have growing up with these tools. Do not transfer emotions onto something that lacks them, because it's illogical.
Yeah.
It's like me giving an emotion to a wall or a tree that I know it's the tree. It's beautiful, but it's a plant. It will not mimic back, it will not give me emotion back. The same with the wall. When you give them certain examples and compare it with this, they might come back and say, no, but it gives me answers, it gives me this, it gives me that, it understands me more. This is again where we fall into this illusion of being sentient. And they have to understand it is a tool, and that's only it's a tool.
Yeah, and you're making me think of two things here. One is, should we really be surprised that this is happening and that this dependence is happening in a society where there's probably less in the way of strong relationships and friendships because of the way society has developed and because of the way technology has been used. So, in the absence of those strong connections with other people, it shouldn't be surprising that if an opportunity presents itself to become attached and depend on something, then people are maybe likely to do that. That's the first thing. And then the second thing's just popped out of my head, so it doesn't matter. Now, in ValuesJam, there's an opportunity for you to ask your own question about harmony. So let's give that a go now. So what is it that you're curious about harmony, and ask a question beginning with who, what, where, when, why, how. And if you've got the answer immediately, then please share that. Or if you want to ask me the question, I go first and then you respond, we can do that as well.
Okay, so values of harmony. And the question is, it has to start with what, why, how?
Who, what, where, when, why, how.
Hmm. Okay, very simple question. Who controls the harmony within yourself?
Okay, well, I hope this isn't a trick question because my immediate answer is I do.
Mm-hmm.
So we control, or we can choose to control. But and I don't know if this is where you're going with this, but you know, when I mentioned earlier that because we live in such a busy world, often we just respond and react. So for my 31 practices, I use the metaphor of a boat on the ocean, and you can either choose to be tossed from one wave to another and you just keep afloat and that's what you do, or you can choose to have a direction that you're going in, and this is with your purpose and your values. And that's not to say that the waves won't come and try and push you in a different direction, but you adjust and you go back to the direction in which you're going. So I think we understand, no, I think that we do not appreciate the power we have over ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And all too easily, we allow other things around us to dictate what we do when that is not what you need to do. So that was a bit of a rambly answer. What about yours?
It was a tricky question, I'll give you that. It was chosen deliberately. In my opinion, we think that we are in control most of the time. We think, or shall I say, we want to be in control. Again, I believe that the social engineering and the frameworks that we currently live in have preconditioned us to be out of harmony, in a sense. I believe that we could be more in harmony, but the fact that we're living in that current society with these social norms and structures are already against us in us wanting to control our harmony in a sense. So that was kind of the paradox that I had in mind to bring you in, is that we would love to be in control of that. Everyone would. But when you think about it, are we really, or are we being influenced 24/7 by everything that we see around us?
Yeah,
And deliberately being pushed out of harmony. I
yeah,
say deliberately because it is a social construct at the end of the day.
yeah. And there's also this is probably opening up something that could take too long to explore, but maybe another time we could do this. But there's something else about our filter on the world, because I think
Mhm.
sometimes people take the view that they're not in harmony, they're discontent for whatever reason, but they can choose not to have that view. So, for instance, if something, there's a guy called Dr. David Riley, and he's a specialist in well-being, and he was describing his approach to things when things don't happen as you expected. So he
Mhm.
described a situation of he's due to travel across town for an appointment, and he's going to take the bus. The bus does
Mhm.
not arrive at the time the bus was supposed to arrive. So what he said he does in that situation is say to himself, "Oh, so that's the way it is it?" And then he and then
So that's the way it is. Okay.
and then he decides what to do next. Whereas so many
Mhm.
people get frustrated, where's the bus? Why didn't the bus come? All of this stuff that doesn't help at all. So
Yeah.
I think that's I just remember him. That was a few years ago that he shared that with me, and it stuck with me ever since. And I tend to do the same because it's like you can't control the bus, so just if it doesn't turn up, do something different.
Well, you might need to walk
Yeah,
in
exactly.
this case. But I agree. I agree. It is a but this is where our mentality needs to be flexible instead of rigid again being conformed by some social norms. We need to be creative in our ways, not only of thinking, but um, have you noticed that previously in the 80s and even before that, children were very creative. They would create like a car out of nothing or a card box or like it can be of anything really. And now we have noticed that people are more just sitting on their computers doing AI stuff, but no one's actually engineering anything. No one's doing anything. No one's going outside in the world and exploring. This type of exploration has been in decline, in my opinion. I remember when I was a child, we would go to the forest and we would explore different species or what is this plant, what is that plant, then write down or even plant different trees in the forest to help with forestation. Nowadays, I don't see these kind of initiatives being engaged in a way
Yeah,
anymore.
I agree, and this is close to my heart at the moment because I'm currently working on a project with a conservation company in Kenya, and the project is called I Am Tree, and it's
Mm,
to help children create mini books with a story and illustrations inside all about trees, and
mhm.
they are so engaged. And all it's doing is helping them to think about the relationship between them and a tree or trees, to help them think about their lives, their strengths, their fruit, their shade. So as if they were a tree. And the teachers have set up a WhatsApp group, and they are just so excited about this thing, and compared to just going online, tapping in tree, a list of information, it's just not as engaging.
Exactly. It's the engagement that brings these enthusiasm of again collective work. Like
Yeah,
there will be other kids doing the same thing, but with different results. So then you can compare what is
yeah,
one child feels and experience as opposed to what other children are experiencing. So that gives you the creativity and the flexibility to be um thriving in a world where everything may be done by AI in the future.
yeah. And if you're interested in the creative arts, have you come across this book?
Your your brain on art. No.
I'll send you the link. It's amazing, and if you're interested in that space, you might be interested. It's quite funny how that's on the top of my pile here. So we're coming to the end of the Values Jam now, Tanya. There's always one final question, which is the same at the end of a
Okay.
Values Jam session, and it is, what are you encouraged to do differently about harmony as a result of this conversation?
What am I encouraged? Well, one thing for sure is balancing my mental, physical, all the states that we were describing in the beginning to be played by the violin that we were describing, where you flow with life as opposed to fight it all the time. And the way to achieve this is one way to achieve it is with the mentality that you mentioned with your friend. Oh, so that's the way it is. It's basically understanding what the reality of the situation is and finding a solution, whatever that might be. It's either walking or staying and waiting for the other bus, but creating less friction within yourself. Because I believe that the self conflict that we carry within ourselves is the biggest disharmony that we have. Let's say conflict between ourselves can be being divided between two jobs, or how is our romantic relationship going, or partnership within the job. uh, these conflicts that we constantly have during the day bring us disharmony within ourselves. And constant conflict within yourselves can be not only detrimental and bring more stress and potentially physical illness, but mental as well. It's just basically mental distortion.
Totally agree. And this might sound a bit strange, but it comes back to, you were talking about we want to be in control. I also believe that we're not in control as much as we either think or would like. And even though we think we would like to be in control, it's a false sense of security anyway, because we're not in control. So things will continue to happen. And so that's the way it is then. I think if more people just accepted that when things happen, you just need to deal with it. Don't let it bother you too
Mm-hmm.
much. Just deal with it because things will happen. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not so good, but you just need to make choices and move on. And that's why I attach so much importance to values, because when you have a deep understanding of what's important to you, that helps you face
Mm-hmm.
those situations, whatever they are, and make a choice. And then you just see how that choice moves you forward. And if
Plays
it
out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to send you. I showed you the book, but I'm going to send you the LinkedIn profile of the author, because I'm currently in conversation with her about an art-based project into youth well-being. And so it might be that there's
Mm.
a connection here with your research, and who knows, maybe there's something
And
that
the Youth Leadership Summit, that can be good for the Youth Leadership Summit,
there we go.
potentially,
There we go.
for teaching it to kids. And do you
Okay.
know the only thing I'd like to say as a close, because you mentioned control, is that the only constant is changed, and we know this so deeply, and yet every one of us at one point at least in their life has been fighting this. Because we want to grab onto control instead of flowing. We know that the constant is only one, and it changes all the time. But we again, it's we fight it within ourselves.
Totally agree. And over the last, it's about 2 years now, I've been using this question. I ask people if they estimate that everything that exists is 100%, how do they divide the 100% between the known and the unknown? And often people will say, well, maybe the known is 2% and the unknown is 98%, something like that. It's a big difference. And then I just ask them the question, so why do you focus all of your attention on the known? Why are you unwilling to dive into the unknown when it is maybe 98% of what it is? And that always leads to an interesting conversation.
Most people are afraid to explore, that's number one, or have fear of the unknown. Most people are comfortable in their comfort zone,
Yeah.
which can be led because of a child trauma. That's why they are in the comfort zone. It takes a lot of courage to actually work your traumas and transform and be able to be out of your comfort zone. And sometimes we are being pushed by our different circumstances to get out of our comfort zone and learn different sorts of behavior and different capabilities that will help us to move forward, because we will use these capabilities further in life that will help us for different situations. And I think that's where the beauty of life is, that we constantly change and evolve. If we stay the same, like we did when we were born, we would have learned nothing.
Yeah, so it's the difference between all of the instruments in an orchestra rather than just listening to one instrument on its own, right? So life, what you just
Yeah.
described there, is the richness of all of that variety. That's a nice picture to end this Values Jam on. So thank you very much, Tanya.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Alan. It was my pleasure.
Okay.